My name is Eliza Carthy. I was born into a musical family, both sides of which have been interested in traditional music for a long time, spanning many generations. My family on my mother's side is of Irish Gypsy descent, and my father's side has musicians going back 7 generations that we know of, the most famous of whom was a piper from County Kerry that lived through 3 centuries, being born in 1799 and dying in the early 20th century. My mother's family became interested in performing traditional music in the 1950s and formed a family singing group that was a major part of the folk revival in the 1960s and beyond, creating stages and identifying repertoire for young people disillusioned by what was seen as manufactured pop music. The 60s revival in the United States saw a massive upsurge in Britain of young people looking for something that belonged to them, something that came from here and spoke to their own experience and families, their own land, and their own history. John Henry may have been a steel-driving man, as the American folk song goes, but what about people that came from the mills of West Yorkshire, the mining communities of the North East, and the farming people of Suffolk? Traditional music is important to me because of my family, but not only because of that. The songwriter Bob Marley once said that it is impossible to know where you are going if you don't know where you have been, and that is as true of music as it is in life. But I don't just play folk music because I think I should, or I think that people should know about it, although I do think that. I play it because it's different and beautiful, exotic and exciting, and has stories to tell that comes from our past, like generations, our grandparents and their parents and their parents, whispering in our ears. No history book will ever tell you what a folk song can tell you. No one will ever be as honest with you as the anonymous combined forces of generations, singing their hearts out, dancing, watching the seasons, and telling the stories that keep us going and keep us human. These stories endure, their wisdom endures, like the timeless lessons of fairy tales passed down to warn children to stay out of the woods. I started singing with my mum and my auntie and cousin when I was 13, and I sang the songs that came from my family and their research. We listened to old recordings and came up with arrangements, and did a couple of folk club tours, and then went to Canada and the Vancouver Folk Music Festival in 1988, performing to 30,000 people on the main stage, an experience which I will never forget. When I was 18, my parents asked me to be in a band with them, and we toured as Waters and Carthy for years, and still play together today. But when I was 20, I was asked to make a solo album by a record company, and the first place I turned to was Cecil Sharp House and the Vaughan Williams Memorial Library. I packed myself up from North Yorkshire and I moved to London for 3 weeks and went into the library every day on the tube, looking for songs and tunes to put on the album. I spent long hours looking through microfiche and the Carpenter collection, sieved through the old books in the shelves, and put out the album that set me off on the career path I'm still on today. But I had to live hundreds of miles from home for quite a while to do it, and of course I couldn't do that now. I have 2 children, and my job doesn't give me that much time. I definitely couldn't do it again that way. The Full English Archive gives everyone the chance to access that material and more, wherever you live, through the internet. If you're interested in a particular song or tune, you can put that into the search engine and immediately access all of the songs that are relevant across all the collections contained in the library. Years of people's work is brought together for you in front of your eyes. Previously, that kind of cross-referencing would take hours of physically pulling out the relevant books and collections, and that's only if you know where to look. When I was putting together a talk for Lowland at the Sage Gateshead a month ago, I simply put the name of the song I wanted to discuss into the search engine and was met with everything the library had on file. It was invaluable and unbelievably easy, totally user-friendly. Anytime now that my memory fails me and I can't recall a bit of a song that I need, I can consult the library from home in Yorkshire. I have found it very, very useful, and I cannot believe that it is a completely free service. Knowledge is power. This empowers us all that want to know. As far as I'm concerned, there is no counter-argument to learning things for the good of it. Why I feel it's important that young people play, sing, dance, and listen to this material is this. Firstly, it is good music. And it is different. It represents an antidote and an alternative to what we are all being fed every day in the form of what we hear on the radio. The television tells us that only super slick professionals belting out songs about love can perform and be valuable, that music is somehow a means to raise you into a different sphere than the rest of the world, who remain dumb and shackled to the ground. But folk music tells us that music is human, and anyone can do it. Everyone has a soul and a story. Politics is not about impersonal government, but about dealing with human troubles face to face as responsible human beings should. Community dances and traditional folk dance teams teach us about continuity and interaction through getting out there and organising, feeling kinship and brotherhood through collectivism and enjoyment. Music and dance should and can bring people together. I just completed a tour with the Marlborough Morris Men from Brattleboro, Vermont in the USA. The connection over a 3-day festival to familial and ancient history is profound and entirely self-generated. Their organisational committee, overseeing a massive group of people of all ages at the yearly Marlborough Ale, is all under 30 years old. Young people can find a voice and confidence through playing and dancing with not only people their own age, but through learning from the previous generations, learning about continuity and community, the lessons older people could give if only they got the chance to. Generations are so often segregated in the modern world. It is a comfort and an ideal to have the sense of family and security that comes from being involved with something that has a long-term view. And that is before we get into the discussions on what learning music and dance of any kind gives to young minds: organisational skills, mathematics, balance, coordination, exercise, confidence and self-expression. Young people find comfort and order in music. My youngest daughter, who is 3, goes to nursery. And kids learn about the world through songs and movement, whether that be 5 little speckled frogs teaching them how to count backwards, or the kind of clapping and skipping games that my 5-year-old is learning in big school now. It is funny to hear her at the same school I went to when I was her age, coming out with the same playground games and songs we had 30 years ago, right down to Jingle Bells, Batman Smells, Robin Flew Away. It makes her laugh, and it makes me laugh, and it makes me wonder, how does that happen? The answer is that traditional music is vital, natural, and it happens anyway, but you can always dig deeper. Young people should be encouraged to learn about traditional music in school so that they can understand how human beings work at one of the fundamental levels without feeling they have to conform to some warbling, airbrushed ideal. It is said that humans could sing before they could talk, and I do believe that. Before my children could talk, they would hum when they were happy. Sometimes it's very satisfying to have a sing when you're feeling low, too. At my workshop in Gateshead the other week, a lady asked me what my favourite songs were, and somehow we started talking about all the music that makes me cry, all the super emotional experiences you can have from music. Catharsis is also important for young people, as for those of us that aren't necessarily so young. The EFDSS currently works with schools to provide access to traditional music and culture through dialogue between teachers and the society. Each school is full of different human beings, therefore each school is treated separately and uniquely with each relevant head. We run programmes of community music in London and beyond to all age groups. We organise gigs and tours, and of course projects like the Full English Band and album itself. We try to raise awareness of traditional British arts and culture as a genre for its own sake, in the hope of enriching the vibrancy of the modern world with the vibrancy of the ancient, and show that they are not so different. And we stand alongside the other great cultures of the world with our heads held high. You show me yours and I'll show you mine. We are part of the glorious tapestry of world culture. There are many things that young people can do with their knowledge of the traditional arts in addition to the natural benefits of learning about anything. There are, of course, as I am an example, careers to be had in professional music making. The folk scene in Britain and beyond has never been healthier. The UK festival scene alone represents a huge and well-documented draw in terms of tourist money and seasonal income for the UK as a nation. The marquee draws in the folk scene here often enter the mainstream charts these days with each release, and several of our most well-known names, such as Seth Lakeman and Bellowhead, have been picked up by major record labels and are enjoying successful employment that way. However, a background in traditional arts can also lead to other things. The storyteller Taffy Thomas's daughter Rosie Thomas, for instance, is currently the fundraising officer at the Sage Gateshead. There are many positions in the arts sector that can benefit from people with a background in grassroots organisation, homegrown talent. There is a folk and traditional music degree course now at Newcastle University that is seeing year upon year of extraordinarily talented young people achieving degrees and consequently going on to careers in the wider arts and in music. This year's graduates are acknowledged as the highest achieving yet, but not only that, they are musicians of the finest quality, all young people coming from a place of simply being interested in what our ancient culture has to offer and what they can offer to it in return. There are concerts to be organised, festivals, community music groups, music therapy, choirs, dance teams, parades, events of all sizes, all of which enrich our cultural life and the well-being of our community at large. Once we know in our bones where we have been, where we are going can only be limitless. Thank you very much.